Welcome to the Virtual Writers Room with Israel Savage.
Hi everyone, my name is Israel Savage and I'm so excited to be with you. Want to give you some tools that you can use to help your work in the writer's room stand out head and shoulders above others who are pitching. 4 tips that you can apply to every scene that you write, every sketch that you write, that will give your work a longer shelf life. Your work is going to be nuanced and have depth to it so that people who want to just take it at face value, there'll be plenty there for them. But for those who want to dig a little deeper, there'll be layer upon layer upon layer to your work. And it's going to be so effortless. These tips will help you in the easiest, fastest way possible transform your work. Kick it up, not just 1 notch, but 10. This is what does it, folks. This is what sets you apart. These 4 tips that I'm going to share with you. 4 questions that you will ask yourself every time you sit down to write a scene or write a sketch. Now, they won't necessarily be questions you ask before you start writing, but you will definitely ask yourself these questions before you enter into the editing process. In the high impact writing system, a technique that we teach and pioneered here at In Studios, always that first draft that you write is going to be a heart-centered draft. You want to edit as little as possible. You want to just let it flow from your heart to the page. Just getting it out there, removing the critic, removing the judgment, all those things that stand in our way and truly do keep our work at a mediocre level because we're comparing ourselves to our idea about what's acceptable and what other people do. Now, what's the point of asking these questions anyway? Well, truly, the point is clarity. And just by asking the question and considering and discovering, allowing the answers to bubble up for yourself as the writer, automatically you've transformed your work, you've added depth to your work, you've thought about your work in a richer, deeper way. Let's look at the movie E.T., directed by Steven Spielberg. E.T. is an extraterrestrial who has been stranded on Earth, found by a young boy. And at the point of the movie that we're going to take a peek, federal agents have discovered that the little boy has this alien who just wants to get home. And they are in pursuit, in this sequence that we're going to look at, of the alien and the little boy. The alien is riding in the basket of the little boy's bike. And just as it looks like the federal agents are going to catch up to Elliot, our main character, and E.T., the extraterrestrial, the little alien that is stranded on planet Earth, the bike magically floats into the air and they escape for the time being. So that's the sequence that we're looking at. All right, let's jump right in with question 1. Whose point of view is the scene or the sketch being told from? And what we're looking for here is an emotional point of view. And so one way of saying that would be who has the strongest emotional reaction in the scene. That's sometimes how you can discover which character's point of view the scene is told from or the sketch is told from. Another way to think about it is if this character were to hang out with their friends later, if all of these characters were to hang out with their friends later, say at a bar or wherever, who's more likely to say to their friends, "You won't believe the day that I had today. You won't believe what happened to me." And so let's look at the characters who are in this particular sequence and whose point of view this sequence might be from. Obviously, there are federal agents. There is Elliot, and there's also E.T. Whose emotional point of view is this sequence told from? Well, E.T. is obviously a primary character. The movie is named after E.T. But would E.T. be so surprised by what's happening that he's likely to tell this story later in a bar with his alien friends? Probably not. He knows that he can levitate things and make things move around. All right, so it's probably not E.T. He probably wasn't the most emotionally impacted. How about the federal agents who are watching? Surely they are amazed and confused by what's happening. Absolutely. That is true. But when you look at who has had the strongest emotional reaction from what we see in the scene and sequence, it's obviously Elliot, who is distraught and then cackles with joy as his bike floats up in the air for the first time, I am sure. All right, so this is told from Elliot's point of view, this sequence. Question number 2 that you want to ask yourself as a writer, after you've written a scene or a sequence or a sketch, is what is the emotional message that I am conveying here as a writer? And so in the sequence that we just discussed, what is the emotional message? And there really are no right answers, but you want to look for a phrase, a tagline, something that you can say in just a few words, almost like a catchphrase. You want to get as clear and concise as possible. Just by going through the exercise of distilling what this sequence is about in just a few words, it's going to clarify so much. It's going to expedite your editing process, not just for this scene or sequence, but for the entire film and its place within the film. What is the emotional message in this sequence? Well, here are some examples. One potential message might be, there's always a way. Or maybe, step forward and the bridge will appear. Or follow your heart against all odds. Any of these are potential messages. It's really up to you as the writer, which one resonates emotionally for you the most. Take the time to distill it in as few words as possible. You'll be glad you did. It will save you so much time down the road. All right, question 3 that you'll want to ask yourself as a writer about every scene, every sketch that you write is this. What are the emotional patterns of behavior that are happening in this scene? A good way to peel this back and to look at this is to first look at what's physically going on. What's the physical pattern that's happening in the scene, in the sequence? And then, just as an actor would, look at the emotional wants of the characters in the scene and what they're getting. And you'll usually see some sort of dynamic or dance that's happening. Physically, what's happening is it's a chase sequence. And what we see on the screen is that the FBI agents get closer and they almost have him, and then he pulls away and closer and pulls away and closer and pulls away and closer and pulls away until he finally breaks free, right? And so physically, that's what's happening in this scene. But what do the characters want? Now we have E.T., we also have Elliot, and we also have the FBI agents. I think the physical action that is primary to the scene is what's taking place between Elliot and the FBI agents, because Elliot is driving the bike. And so what does Elliot want emotionally? Well, one of the things that he wants emotionally, and maybe his primary focus, is he wants safety. And the way that he immediately, in the most immediate terms, thinks that he'll get that is to escape from the FBI agents. That will give him some sort of relief. That will give him some sort of safety or some sort of feeling of safety. What do the FBI agents want? I think arguably you could say that they want safety too. They're afraid of this alien. And how are they going to find safety, the FBI agents? By capturing Elliot. And so they want to capture Elliot, and Elliot wants to escape so that they can have the emotional outcome of some sort of sense of safety, right? So they're at odds there with each other. And so there's this dynamic, this dance that's happening of pull and push until finally Elliot breaks free. All right, let's take a look at our final question. Does a character change and change forever in the scene emotionally? Now, what we're looking for here are just the seeds of potential change. Is it conceivable that the emotional revelations or exposure to emotional events or processing of emotional events in this scene might have left an impression on this character that would cause this character to change? Sometimes we actually see the changes start to happen in the scene, but sometimes we can only hypothesize or imagine. And in this case, I would say most definitely, absolutely, Elliot changes and changes forever in this scene. It's not every day that your bike levitates. And you can hear it in his cackle, in the joy that his mind has just been expanded in terms of what's possible for not only his life, but what is possible for our ideas about the universe. Now, are there others in this scene that change and change forever? I would say absolutely there too. You know, anyone else who observed the bike flying across the moon is going to be changed. And so you can have several characters who change and change forever, but primarily, since this is told from Elliot's point of view, I would say he would be our focus. All right, these are 4 questions that you have just asked yourself, that you have just used to dig deeper into your scenes. Now, how will this help you? It's already helped you. Just by answering these questions, you have clarified for yourself what is happening, what is going on, and you have done your future self a favor in the editing process. So when it comes time to remove things in your script that just don't belong there because they don't serve the message, they confuse or muddy the waters as to whose point of view it's from, or you are wondering what should happen next, well, you just look at the emotional dance that's happening. It's a dance, it's a dynamic. And so it really becomes so obvious what's needed or what's not needed. Don't be satisfied with good enough. Push these sketches, these scenes across the finish line by asking yourself these 4 questions that will make all the difference in your work and in you as a writer, as a master storyteller. The depth that it adds for your audience, for your readers, is almost incomprehensible. You will be delighted, you will be dazzled, and so will they. If you liked the video you just saw, click on the link below to find out more about our virtual sketch writers room. You'll interact with writers from around the world, from the comfort of your living room, while you advance your professional writing career. For more information, go to instudios-nyc.com/VWR and make TV within. We'll see you there.